Okay, well, welcome to the garage. Oh, the garage, I guess. Okay, so, yeah, everything I'm going to present is Lancia update stuff, although I haven't done really any physical work on the Lancia since, I don't know, it's been really like 2 years after, shortly after the beginning of COVID, like February 2020. It's a warm day today, pardon me. So yeah, if you remember, if you want to see the last video, I was noodling, trying to figure out what the exhaust routing was going to be. I came up with an idea. Great, the washing machine is almost finished. Yeah, the exhaust idea that I had, some people commented on it, and it gave me pause to kind of reconsider the direction I was going. I do want to initially try to get this car through the California Air Resources Board referee program, where they have to kind of like look at it all and judge whether this car is worthy to be registered and run on the road. And so they kind of want the exhaust system to be as stock as possible. So I'm going to try and adhere to that as closely as possible. If they tell me to, take a long run off a short pier that I'll never get certified, that's fine. I'll just take it to my brother out in Colorado, and we'll just get it through Colorado stuff, and I will just borrow it from him. Anyway, so another thing that was like stopping me for a long period of time on making progress on this vehicle was the difficulty in sourcing parts. I'm sure we all know everything's been essentially a shit show trying to get what we need to get. On this particularly, it was these shocks. These are some Bilstein shocks. I forgot what the part number is or what exactly they're called, but they were originally designed for the Mark II and Mark I Volkswagen Rabbit, Jetta, Golf, GTI, that kind of thing, to fit in their struts as replacement shocks for the struts. Now these are designed specifically for lowered vehicles, and so that's going to suit a sports car and its low slung stance perfectly. They have a really thick piston, and I think this is going to be a much better solution. I mean, yeah, I could have spent a crazy amount of money and got coilover shocks, and maybe a lot of people don't think it's a crazy amount of money, but that's how I'm trying to manage doing all of these projects all at the same time, is by spending as little as possible unless I absolutely need to. And these were expensive enough. I mean, this was like $750 just for 4 shocks. And that's a lot of money. This car cost me $200 to buy it. And of course, that's always going to be the cheapest thing. Luckily, and I'm going to document as I convert these struts over to coilovers. It's been done before on XWeb forum. There's been some very smart, clever guys who've done this path before me, but no one's taken the time to make a video of it. And I think that might be instructional for other fellas that might like to give this a shot. Specifically, one of the things real quick is those Volkswagen struts. They either came with an external thread like this that a nut would go onto on the strut body, or the strut body had a female threaded cap, and so they give you caps of each type, depending on what you have. Luckily enough, these are exactly threaded together, and so what I'm going to do is probably take this external thread and hog it out on the inside so that it will allow the shock body to slide all the way through, and weld it to, cut off the top of this strut and weld it to the top of this strut, and then I'll have this cap that will anchor the shock in the strut body. And so I'm going to, convert these to coilovers. I've got some parts. These were what I was waiting on forever because nobody had these. And everyone was telling me it was like, oh yeah, they'll be 2 weeks away. Then I'd call back and everything was always 2 weeks away. So moving on, and the reason why I went into that is because in order to do the exhaust, I needed to figure out the suspension height of everything, because everything is an interrelation. The drive shafts coming out of the transmission to the hubs are going to be at a certain height, and I wanted to understand that first before I started running exhaust pipes into that area. And I didn't want to have any interference. I also didn't want to have too much proximity for heat to radiate to the drive shafts and all that stuff and start cooking the CV joints on either end, which it just starts boiling the grease, and the grease goes away, and then you lose your lubrication at the hub or at the transmission. So yeah, you just have to kind of think a lot of steps ahead about all this stuff. So with that, I did go and call, or buy some exhaust pieces off of Summit, and this is massive stuff for this little car. It's only 2.5 inches, but this is far outsized for what I'm doing. And oftentimes, people will upsize the exhaust components so that there's less resistance. Essentially, an engine is essentially an air pump. It's a combustion air pump. And the easier you can flow air into and out of it, the more power you can theoretically make. Now, this car stock, it's a front engine car, and it had like 1.875 inch tubing coming out of the headers into these catalytic converters, and 1 3/4 after that, then going out. And this exhaust system was like close to 10 feet long. And so what I am doing is I'm shortening radically the length of this exhaust system, and by virtue of doing that, I am effectively allowing this engine to breathe easier. It's like if you trying to breathe, for example, through a garden hose. If you have 200 feet of garden hose, there is going to be resistance of you trying to move that air through such a long tube. If you have just like 1 inch of garden hose in front of your mouth, there's no resistance at all. You can breathe just fine. So that's kind of essentially the idea of what I'm doing with this. And I'm not changing the intake system much. I'll probably get like a K&N filter for the airbox, but I'm not changing the camshafts right now. I'm not changing the valves. Essentially, I would like this engine to produce what it made at factory levels, which is like 230 horsepower, and that's going to be more than enough to just shove this little car down the road. So yeah, I'm not worried about the power right now. It's effectively going to be kind of roughly the same power as an Alfa Romeo 4C. Yeah, and that is no slouch in acceleration. So yeah, so I need to get some smaller diameter exhaust tubing. I am going to probably retain some of this bigger stuff to use as heat shielding over the smaller stuff. And put in sort of like a buffer of fiberglass insulation to mitigate the heat inside the engine bay, because it's just going to be hot in there regardless. And I'm trying to increase as much venting into the engine bay and out as possible, but you know, heat is the enemy of engines, even though it's the friend of engines too, whatever. So, also what I was, you know, waiting to get on stuff, and by virtue of meeting some great guys on Craigslist, I got like a complete clutch setup for this WRX transmission from an awesome guy named Maurice in South San Francisco. Let's see, I had gotten a flywheel for the transmission from another guy for like $50, and that was really cool. But Maurice, in his pile of stuff that he was trying to get rid of, he had a lightened flywheel, and I didn't actually compare them until today. This flywheel is like between 22 and 23 pounds. I just used, like, you know, the bathroom scale to measure that. And so this is 22 and 23 pounds. This little sucker is between 13 and a half and 15 pounds. And so this thing is 40% the weight of this thing. Or no, it's 60% the weight of this. So that's a massive weight loss in rotational weight, which is essentially going to allow the engine to make its horsepower and spool up a lot quicker. I might have to go back to the heavier flywheel. I don't know. I'm wanting to give the lighter flywheel a go initially, but there can be issues with making your flywheel too light. It can be easy to stall the car when you're, you know, at a stop and letting out the clutch. You either really need to give it a lot of RPM, you know, rev it a bit so that you don't bog the engine down when you're taking off. But this thing makes 230 foot-pounds of torque too, so that really shouldn't be an issue. And it's going to be such a smooth engine. I think I'm going to really enjoy the kind of the revability of the engine. But if I do have to go to a heavier flywheel, it will just be, you know, that much easier to take off from a stop. And, you know, it's essentially going to conserve its rotational momentum, so it's going to, there's going to be, you know, essentially, if we're using the lighter flywheel, there'll be less rev drop. Well, there'll be more rev drop between shifting. So you have to, you know, kind of pay attention to that stuff a little bit more. Anyway, that should be an interesting thing to try when I get this thing running. I also, you can see I removed the front wheel, and part of that was I wanted to weigh this front wheel, which is just only a 15-incher, and it only has like a, you know, 195 60R 15 tire on it, with this smaller 14-inch Maserati Biturbo wheel. This is a 14-incher, and I've got a set of these, and another awesome guy named Mark that I met through the forums. He has a running Lancia Scorpion, so, you know, his is no slouch, because he drove up here in it, and he was, you know, I was showing him what I was up to, and he was getting ready to change out the tires of his car, and I was like, dude, if, you know, and these are essentially new tires, but they were just kind of dated. They're like 7 years old, and he was having issues with tire shops balancing them for him, and that's insane. That's asinine that tire shops think that there's some sort of liability as far as balancing tires. They just want to sell you new tires. Anyway, the weight of these two is significant, the difference. The 15-inch tire and wheel combination is 37 pounds. The 14-inch is 32 pounds. So that's a 15% weight reduction. And what that also equates to is a huge change in unsprung weight, which means much more, the suspension has a much easier time of doing what it does best. When suspensions have to deal with heavy wheel and tire combinations, it's fighting against itself in order to, because essentially it's trying to maintain contact with the road surface. And the heavier the wheel is, the more difficult it is for the suspension to keep that tire planted on the road. So yeah, a lot of people are just obsessed with getting these massive wheel and tire combinations on their cars, and it's gone off the rails how stupid it is, because they're just making the cars handle worse and worse and worse. I know that suspension systems have gotten very sophisticated, but it's just out of stylistic reasons it's gone in the performance category the absolute wrong direction, in my humble opinion. Anyway, right now I will show you what the idea is as far as the new exhaust ideas are. So let's do that. And also I have an idea that I was just going to share with you guys about just a simple tool. I don't know if any of you fellow X19 Scorpion whatever owners are interested, but it's a tool that I'll just kind of show at the very end of the video so you can see if you're interested in having something like that. So anyway, okay, let's move over here. Okay, woo! Fat man alert. Since I'm not actually using this sail, I move that out of the way. All right, so yeah, this is kind of the reason why I got some of that 2-inch exhaust tubing. Is I wanted to use this MagnaFlow muffler in this application. Another guy who put one of these Subaru Flat 6 EG33 engines into his Porsche 911, he fabricated an exhaust system using this, and it sounded fantastic. So, I'm not trying to remake the wheel here. I'm just going to use what he did. And this is a cross-flow design muffler where you can, essentially kind of mount it in a variety of ways, and it's very forgiving as far as its mounting, because it just allows. So yeah, I'm going to have the exhaust come in and feed this. We're going to come in and cross over to these guys, which will go to the outlets out the tailpipe. So I originally had an idea about, in the last video, about having the catalytic converters super low and essentially almost underneath the drive shaft hubs of the transmission. And a lot of people are like, these get really hot, Christopher. That heat is going to come radiating upwards. And so I was like, okay, well maybe I need to rethink that. So the idea that I'm going with now is I'm going to kind of mount these vertically in the corner where these two frame components meet. And there's going to be like a little 90-degree turn where these come up, and then they're going to turn again. And this is the secondary catalytic converter of the SVX, which is not useful in this application, because in the SVX it went from the 2 catalytic converters and narrowed down and into an inlet here, and then went to a single exhaust outlet. This band right here, this kind of denotes the actual catalytic converter core matrix. And so it's about that wide, about like an index finger, or my index finger wide. So I need essentially 2 individual catalytic converter outlets. I'm doing this to just kind of go through the motions so that this is, you know, a happy car emissions wise. I got off of Craigslist, you know, these were exhaust cans from a Royal Enfield 650, and they have catalytic converters in them, and the inlet into here is the same 1 3/4 that leaves the primary catalytic converter. So I'm going to have a little 90-degree guy come up here and go into these catalytic converters. And these are really, I mean, these are huge. I think they're almost bigger than the secondary catalytic converter of the Subaru. And they're essentially the same area. So they should have almost the same flow characteristics and do the same job. I mean, these are primary catalytic converters, so they should scrub the emissions just as well as the secondary catalytic converter. And this is old, and these are brand new. The guy that had them, he wanted to switch to some louder exhaust pipes and get rid of the catalytic converters. So, you know, more power to him. And so I'm going to cut these down further and weld a tapered cap that is going to exit into this muffler, which is going to be kind of mounted here. I don't know exactly the orientation of how it's going to get mounted. The fabrication process will kind of dictate that. But how that's going to work is I'm going to remove this sheet metal right here, and I'm going to do a direct mount off of the transmission. There are some bosses on the top of the transmission, and I'm going to make a pretty beefy bracket that is going to hold this, and it's the entire exhaust system is going to be able to move as one unit, and so I don't need to put in those little flexible. You've seen those braided steel exhaust joints. Those are really only for when you're going from an engine mount, the header's coming out, and the muffler way downstream is mounted to the chassis somewhere. So everything is going to be moving as one unit. Yeah, I'm not wild about having. I mean, this is not a super heavy muffler, but yeah, it's going to be an entire system of tubing and heat shielding and everything like that. And so I am adding some weight that is going to be a little bit higher up at the back end, and that's not ideal, but that's about the only way I feel like I can solve this. If anyone else has further ideas, at this point I'm going to say keep it to yourself, because I need to move forward with this, and hopefully you guys will find this a fascinating solution. So yeah, and let's just move on to this last little bit, and I will put this at the very end of the video so it doesn't take up extra viewing time. All right. Some more light in here. Oh! Move these heavy pieces out. Okay. So, yeah, this is a rusty brake disc hub. X19 Fiat and Lancia owners probably recognize this. These, they're a nice lightweight setup. It's always been, I always kind of found it kind of a pain in the butt to try and mount wheels onto these things. I do love lug studs so much more because they allow you to kind of index how the wheel fits on the car very, very quickly. And with these, you kind of try to get them close and kind of try and rotate the hub or the wheel, and maybe use a screwdriver to kind of get them to get close. That's ridiculous. I'm so sick of it. So I don't know if you know, other people are interested, this is just a quick solution that I came up with. You know, because I saw Mercedes had a tool like this on some parts catalog at one point. So yeah, you take and this was like a bolt, but I was going to make, you know, some more of these if there is some interest for them. And you just kind of easily put the bottom hole up, and then you fit the mount up, and essentially it's just very easy to get the bolt indexed properly. And then you just, you know, take this guy out, and the rest of the bolts go in easy peasy. So I'm not trying to like start a new business. I don't. I mean, I was just going to make some for the you know, the forum members and stuff like that. I have no idea what to even charge for them, because I mean, if I could just, I mean, these are really, this is just a bolt, and if you can find, you know, a bolt of this size, this is a perfect solution. And you just chop the head off a bolt, is what I did, and you know, there you have it. If anybody is interested in me trying to figure something out like that for them, I will kind of try and do that. But it's just an idea I had, because my mind never stops saying stuff to me. So anyway, that's it. Anyway, I will see you inside.